What's going on, y'all? In this tutorial, I am going to show you how to make a V-part wig by hand on a mesh dome cap. I'm Mika, by the way. I have been making wigs for nearly 15 years for myself and my clients, and I want to show you how to do the same, so let's get into it. A few things: always make your wig on a wig block that is the size of your head. And if you're going to be using a mesh dome cap, I highly recommend that you make your wig by hand. I don't recommend using a sewing machine. And I will share more on that later in the video. So the first thing I do is attach the thread to the cap. That way, over time, we will not have to worry about it unraveling, after you do all of the shampoos, co-washing, all of that good stuff. It will stay intact. When I start each weft, I always start stitching about an inch from the end. So I start about an inch from the end, stitch to the end, and then I go back to sew down the entire weft. Do that for every single track. That way, again, we do not have to worry about our wig unraveling. She will last for years and years to come. Okay? Your very first weft should be sewn along the elastic band without going through. So don't do that. Just go through like a little smidge, and I promise it'll be fine. And I like to stitch very close together. That way you don't have to worry about your comb or brush snagging the thread or the weft. So along that elastic band without going through the elastic. We want that elastic to do its job, which is why I do not recommend using a sewing machine to make wigs or mesh dome caps. Any other cap, absolutely, but not a wig made on a mesh dome cap. So sew along that band. While working on the back and the sides, you want to sew the hair ear to ear, side to side. I always start on my right side. So when I start on my right side, wherever I started, I stop at the exact same point when I get to the left side. It doesn't have to be exact, but as close as possible. So that's when I use my stick pins. I have the blue stick pin on my right side, and on the left side I also have a blue stick pin, as close as possible in that same area. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch to that blue stick pin, fold my weft over, and then go back to the other side. Another important part when you're making your own wigs on the mesh dome cap by hand, when your thread is about to end, before you cut it, back stitch to reinforce it, cut, and then do what I'm doing now and tie a knot 2 to 15 times. I'm joking. At least twice. Tie at least twice. That way, again, third time, we ain't got to worry about our wig unraveling over time. And remember, I told you, whenever you start your new thread, attach it to the wig before you start stitching. And if you can't tell, I am doubling these wefts. If you double your wefts, just make sure you're going under both of them. There's been a couple of times when I think I'm going under both, and then I see that one is not attached. So just make sure you're going under both wefts while you're stitching. And I don't like to use chalk, markers, eyeliner pencils. I like to use stick pins to map out where I have to sew the hair down. I don't recommend doing that. If you're making it for yourself or for someone else, you don't want to have those markings on your wig cap. My personal opinion. So now I am just stitching to the other side. These bundles, they were cut up, so I have to make sure I reinforce the end. Oh, right on time. I'm about to show you now. So whenever you reach the end of a weft, stitch to the end and then double back to reinforce that end. That way, again, girl, I'm going to keep saying it because it's so important. You do not want your wig to unravel over time. Also, I highly recommend using nylon thread. Do not use the regular thread for sewing weaves. I believe it's polyester. Nylon thread is smaller and stronger, so you can double back, triple back, however many times you want to go back, as many times as possible, and it will not get bulky. She is nice and secure. So here I'm just showing you not to go far up. When you pull your needle through your cap, don't go far up like that. You're going to make your cap small. So just go under a smidge, if that makes sense. And don't forget to secure every weft you add to your cap at the very beginning. You know how you start at the end, work your way down, and then continue to stitch. So when I'm working with small pieces, if it doesn't make the wig bulky, sometimes I will overlap the two ends. This is where we started. You can see the weft. Now I'm going to stitch the wefts to our next pin, this purple one. So I'm going to stitch here, and then I'm going to stitch to this one. I'm going to go back, sew to the pink one, and then to the next pink one right here. And at that point is when we no longer want to fold over. You're going to add your next weft right above where you started. That way we are continuing to cover up the cap. And remember, do not go through the elastic band. So fold it back without pulling. Use your pins to keep it in place. So that pretty much sums up sewing the bundles in the back and on the sides. You keep going until you reach close to the top. The closer you get to the top, you will not be able to go side to side, ear to ear. You'll have to fill in the middle. And I'm gonna show you that in a few seconds. Stitch this to this one, and then we're going to cut it, because once you get to the front of the wig, you do not want to continue to fold over the wefts. I just cut my thread by mistake with these scissors. Look how you can lift that up and not see all your business, girl. And continue to sew down the wefts as if you did fold them over. So again and again and again, start about an inch from the end, stitch to the end, and then go back to sew down the entire weft. And I'm going to be honest, it does take longer to make your wig by hand when you're using a mesh dome cap, but it's so worth it. I have wigs that I made like 2017 that are still holding up. So that's how we're looking. Now I can no longer go ear to ear. We're going to have to just fill in the back, and then we can continue to go side to side once we reach the crown. And we will outline our V, or our V part. Here's how we're looking. I'm not going to double any more wefts because you don't want it to be bulky. If you are going to be doing a U part, just simply go in a U. You'll keep on going. You'll keep on going until you have a U. We're doing a V part, so I'm going to map that out. To create the V opening, I take two pieces and I combine the back two ends. I let those two ends meet. How narrow you want your opening to be is a personal preference, so you need to know how much leave out you will need to cover the wig. So map that out before you even get started. If you prefer to have a wig with minimal leave out, a V part is a great option. You want to make sure these top two pieces are nice and flat. I do not recommend doubling these two. I stitched down my first weft, and then when I stitch the second weft, I like that back end to kiss but not overlap the other back end, if that makes any sense. And right here, I'm just doing what I did with every end throughout the wig is I just double stitch. So, I started about an inch from the end, stitched to the end, and then I went back to stitch the entire weft. And you do that for both. And when it's time to stitch down the back end of the second one, we're going to let that kiss the first one. I do like to sew through the weft and attach the weft to the cap. That way we don't have to worry about any lifting. And I only do that when I'm working with this area right here, the back part that makes the V. It is helpful to connect that first weft to the second one. That will prevent any lifting in the future. If you do connect the two wefts, do it without overlapping. When I connect them, I like to go under the weft I'm currently working on and then go through the weft of the second one. All right, and when you are done creating your V, and you can do this at the very beginning when you first start making the wig, or like I did once I got close to the top, but you're gonna go ahead and fill in the rest of the wig. Just sew left to right until it's completely full. And do not double these wefts because you don't want it to be bulky on top. Now, if you're making a wig with curly hair, you can get away with doubling the wefts. Just know that it will be full. Once you are all done, just comb through the wig to make sure you don't have any thread that you didn't pull all the way through. See how amazing it looks when you sew along the elastic band and not sew it through the cap straight across. You have the option of pulling your wig up if you need to. This is great if you are making a wig with curly hair. I gave the wig a good shampoo and condition, let her air dry. Now it's time to cut this extra cap off. Cut up. I like to use manicure scissors, so just do one cut up the wig and then cut off the extra. And be careful not to cut your thread. We did all that hard work. Add your combs. These are my favorite combs. I prefer these. Use what you love. Install your combs. I like to use the same nylon thread. It's nice and strong, and just go through each hole several times to make sure that comb stays in place for years to come. I add 2 combs on each side. I added a few curls just to make it look like a little something, and here is the final look. You have the option to wear a middle, left, and right part. So if you have some bundles in your stash, girl, you better go ahead on and use those and make yourself a V part or a U part wig. I hope y'all found this helpful, and I will see you in the next one. But watch this video right here because YouTube thinks you'll like it. See y'all next time.